I died on my wedding day, choking on the bitter pill of betrayal as my mother's laughter echoed through the bridal suite like shards of broken glass. The veil over my eyes wasn't lace. It was the fog of antifreeze she'd slipped into my champagne flute, her manicured nails still glistening with the residue of our shared lipstick as she whispered, "It's for the best, darling. He was never yours anyway." And just like that, my world blurred into black. The last image burned into my retinas, her face, twisted in false sympathy, inches from mine as my heart stuttered to a stop. But death isn't the end when you've got unfinished business. I woke up gasping, not in some ethereal afterlife, but tangled in the silk sheets of my old apartment bed, the alarm clock blinking 7:14 a.m. On a Tuesday in June, exactly 3 months before the wedding that would have killed me. My hands flew to my throat, expecting the burn, but there was only smooth skin and the faint scent of my lavender body wash. I bolted upright, heart hammering like a jackrabbit on meth, and caught my reflection in the vanity mirror, 28-year-old Allison Harper, wide-eyed and alive, with the same chestnut waves and freckles across my nose. Not a ghost. Not a dream. A do-over. God. Or the universe. Or whatever sadistic force runs this carnival had hit the rewind button, and I was back in my body before the knife twisted. The realization hit me like a freight train. Mom, Elena Harper, the queen of suburban perfection with her Pilates-toned arms and Vineyard Vines wardrobe, hadn't just stolen my fiancé. She'd orchestrated my murder to cover her tracks. Also, she could play the grieving widow to the life insurance payout and the sympathy fucks from the country club crowd. And Jake, my golden boy Jake Reynolds, with his Wall Street smile and promises of forever, he'd been in on it from the start, feeding her intel on my habits, my allergies, even the brand of bubbly I loved at brunches. They'd been screwing behind my back for a year, turning our engagement into their twisted foreplay. I remembered it all now, the hushed phone calls, the late nights at the office, the way her eyes lingered too long on his Instagram stories. But in my first life, I'd been too blind, too eager to please, to see the rot. I stumbled to the bathroom, splashing cold water on my face, the tile floor cool under my bare feet like an anchor to this second chance. Seattle's morning fog pressed against the window, a gray veil over the Puget Sound, mirroring the storm brewing in my chest. This wasn't some Hallmark redemption arc, this was war. I'd spent my first 28 years as the good daughter, the reliable fiancé, the girl who baked lavender scones for Mom's garden parties and let Jake mansplain my own marketing job at the ad agency. No more. This time, I'd dismantle their empire brick by hypocritical brick, starting with the truth they thought they'd buried. By noon, I was at my desk in the open-plan office of Harper and Reynolds Creative, the irony of the name twisting like a knife. Jake had co-founded it with me 2 years ago, back when we were power couple goals, hustling pitches to tech startups in Belltown. Now, every email ping felt like a landmine. I scrolled through my inbox, hunting for the first breadcrumb, an old thread from last spring, when Mom had accidentally forwarded me a flirty text meant for him. In my past life, I'd laughed it off as maternal meddling. Today, I archived it with a screenshot, my fingers trembling as I compiled a digital war chest. Lunch was a solo affair at the Pike Place Market, the salty tang of fish and the chatter of tourists a welcome distraction. I watched a street performer juggle salmon, his grin wide and untroubled, and envied that freedom. My phone buzzed Jake. Of course. Miss you already. Babe. Dinner at 7? Your place. The words that once melted me now curdled like spoiled milk. I typed back a breezy, can't wait, face blowing a kiss, and hit send, my stomach churning. Play the part, Allison. Lure them in. Let them think the mouse is still scampering toward the trap. That evening, as I stirred risotto in my tiny kitchen, the door clicked open, and there he was, 6 feet of tailored chinos and cologne that screamed, "I summer in the Hamptons." Jake wrapped his arms around me from behind, nuzzling my neck, and I forced a laugh, the sound brittle even to my ears. "Rough day?" I asked, plating the food with hands that itched to slap the smirk off his face. He sank into a chair, loosening his tie. The usual. Dad's breathing down my neck about the merger with that Bellevue firm. But hey, once we're hitched, it'll all be ours. His eyes sparkled with that predatory gleam I now recognized, the one that said he saw me as a stepping stone, not a partner. We ate. We talked shop. We made love on the couch like it was our last night on Earth. But as he snored beside me later, I lay awake, staring at the ceiling cracks that mapped out my plan like veins. First target, the affair. I'd expose it subtly, plant seeds of doubt without tipping my hand. Mom's 60th birthday gala was in 2 weeks, a black tie affair at the Seattle Yacht Club. 300 guests from her PDA mafia to Jake's venture capitalist cronies. Perfect stage. I'd start small, anonymous tips to mutual friends, doctored screenshots that blurred the lines just enough to spark whispers. But the real bomb? The secret she'd buried deeper than my body in that imagined grave, her embezzlement from the family trust. Dad had died 5 years ago from a heart attack, but now I remembered the discrepancies, the missing funds from his estate, funneled into her charity for at-risk moms. She'd framed it as altruism, but it was a slush fund for her Botox and boy toys. And Jake? He'd laundered it through our agency, turning dirty money into glossy ad campaigns. I slipped out of bed, padding to my laptop in the dim light. A quick dive into old bank statements, ones I'd ignored before, confirmed it. Transfers from the trust to Shell accounts, timestamps aligning with their hotel receipts. My blood ran cold, then hot. This wasn't just betrayal, it was a felony web, sticky with greed and lies. In my first life, I'd discovered it too late. After the wedding, when the feds were closing in and she poisoned me to silence the loose end. This time, I'd be the spider. The next morning, I called in sick, claiming a migraine, and drove to Bellevue in my beat-up Subaru, the radio blasting Taylor Swift's revenge anthems like a soundtrack to my rebirth. Mom's McMansion loomed at the end of a cul-de-sac, all Cape Cod charm and manicured hedges hiding the poison ivy within. She answered the door in yoga pants and a cashmere sweater, her Botox smile freezing when she saw my face. "Allison? Honey, what's wrong? You look like you've seen a ghost." I forced a hug, inhaling her Chanel No. 5, same as always, the scent that now gagged me. "Just needed my mom," I lied, stepping inside. The foyer gleamed with crystal vases and framed photos of us, me at prom, her at my college graduation, Jake and I at last year's tree lighting. Lies upon lies. We settled in the sunroom, herbal tea steaming between us, and I launched the probe.
"Mom,
Have you talked to Jake lately? He seems
off.
Her laugh tinkled like wind chimes in a hurricane.
Off.
That boy's head over heels for you.
Why?
What's got you spooked? I sipped my tea, watching her over the rim. Just a feeling. Like maybe he's got secrets. Her eyes flickered, barely. But I caught it. The micro-twitch of a liar. Bingo. We chatted for hours. Me dropping hints like grenades. A dream about Dad's finances. A joke from a friend about office romances. Each one landed. Her posture stiffening. Her question sharpening. By the time I left, she'd hugged me too tightly, murmuring, "We're family, darling." Nothing comes between that.
Oh.
But it would. As I backed out of the driveway, tires crunching gravel, I whispered to the rear view, "Watch me." Back home, Jake was waiting with takeout Thai and a bottle of rose. We ate on the balcony, the city lights twinkling like distant conspirators. "You're quiet tonight," he said, tracing my knuckles. "Thinking about the future," I replied, clinking glasses.
Ours.
"It's going to be epic." He grinned, oblivious, and I smiled back, tasting victory on my tongue. But as the night wore on, doubt crept in. What if I was wrong? What if this was all a hallucination from grief?
No.
The burn in my throat from that poisoned champagne was etched in my soul. This was real. And so was my rage. 2 weeks blurred into a frenzy of reconnaissance. I hacked Jake's email, child's play with his predictable password, our anniversary, the sap, and found the smoking gun, a folder labeled contingency, filled with emails plotting my disappearance post-wedding. Mom's words, "She'll sign the prenup blind." Then, the accident. Clean. My hands shook as I forwarded copies to a burner account, tears blurring the screen. How had I loved this monster? How had I let her birth me into this hell? The gala arrived like a storm front. I slipped into my emerald gown, the fabric-hugging curves I'd once dieted to fit Jake's ideal.
Now. It armored me.
Mom greeted guests at the door, a vision in sapphire. Jake at her side in a tux that screamed old money. Their hands brushed, innocent to the crowd, electric to me. I circulated, champagne flute in hand, sparkling water. This time, charming aunts and uncles with stories of our blissful engagement. Whispers started by midnight. "Did you see Elena and Jake? So close." I'd seeded them via a fake gossip account on the neighborhood Facebook group. Then, the toast. Mom took the mic. Her voice honeyed venom. "To my daughter, Allison, the light of my life."
And to Jake,
"The son I never had. May your love be as unbreakable as ours." The room applauded. I clapped too, my smile ablaze. Jake caught my eye, mouthing "love you." I mouthed back, "Forever." But forever was a lie I'd end. As the band struck up at last, I pulled him onto the dance floor. My body pressed close, whispering, "We need to talk." Alone. His brow furrowed. But he followed me to the balcony, the sound lapping below like a hungry beast. The balcony air was thick with salt and secrets. The party noise a muffled roar behind the French doors. Jake leaned against the railing, his tie askew, that boyish charm cracking under my stare. "What's up? Allie, you okay?" I stepped closer, close enough to smell his aftershave, the same one he'd worn when he proposed on a rainy ferry ride to Bainbridge. Down on one knee with a ring that blinded me with its promise. "Jake," I said softly, my voice a silken noose. "Do you remember that weekend in Napa? The one Mom chaperoned because she was so excited for us." His Adam's apple bobbed, a tell I'd missed before.
Yeah.
"Of course." "Why?" "Because I remember walking in on you too. Laughing. Too close. The lie slipped out smooth. I hadn't walked in. Not then. But the seed was real, watered by their carelessness. His face paled. Just a fraction, but enough. Allie, that's crazy. Your mom?
She's like,
Family. He reached for my arm, but I pulled back, letting the doors swing open to admit a gust of laughter from inside. Is she? Or is she more? I let the question hang, watching panic flicker in his eyes like a shorting wire. Before he could stammer a denial, Mom appeared, her gown swirling like a shark's fin. There you are, the cake's being cut.
Jake.
Darling, help me with a knife? He bolted like a lifeline, leaving me alone with the stars. Victory tasted like bile. Phase 1. Crack the facade. As the night wound down, I cornered Aunt Lydia in the powder room, the older woman's lipstick smudged from too many toasts. Lydia, have you noticed how close Mom and Jake are? It's sweet.
But
Almost too sweet. Her eyes widened, the gossip hound in her perking up. Really?
well,
I did see them at that fundraiser last month, heads together like conspirators. By morning, the texts would fly, group chats buzzing, coffee clutches dissecting. The fallout hit fast. Jake called the next day, voice edged with steel. What the hell did you say to Lydia? She's texting her mom about some bullshit Napa story. I played dumb, feigning tears over the line. I don't know, baby. I'm just stressed. The wedding planning. He softened, as predicted, promising a makeup weekend at his family's cabin in the Cascades.
hook, line.
Sinker. But Mom was sharper. She showed up at my office unannounced, her Mercedes purring in the loading zone like a threat. Allison Harper, we need to talk. We retreated to a conference room, the glass walls a fishbowl for prying eyes. She paced, heels clicking like metronome ticks. What's this nonsense about Jake and me? You're imagining things. Honey. Stress. Maybe. The big day's approaching. I met her gaze. Unflinching. Or maybe I'm seeing clearly for once. Dad's money.
Mom.
The trust. Where did it go? Her step faltered. Just once. What are you on about? Your father left us comfortable. End of story. Not end of. I have statements. Transfers to Elena Consulting. Funny how that coincides with your spa retreats. Bluff. I'd only skimmed surfaces, but her Blanche told me I'd hit vein. That's ridiculous. You're tired. Let me handle the wedding vendors. You focus on being the bride. She cupped my face, her rings cold against my skin. I love you, Allison. More than anything. The words that once soothed now scorched. I nodded, murmuring agreement, but inside, the fire raged. That night, alone, I dug deeper. Using Jake's credentials, stolen during our reconciliation romp, I accessed the agency's books. There it was, inflated invoices,
Ghost client.
money siphoned to offshore accounts. Mom's touch was everywhere, her signature on the shell companies. Jake's approvals rubber-stamped. They'd been bleeding the firm dry, planning to tank it after the wedding, blame my instability, and cash out with my life insurance as the cherry. Rage boiled over. I smashed a wine glass against the wall, shards glittering like fallen stars, and sobbed for the girl I'd been, trusting, blind, poisoned by the two who should have protected me. But tears dried into resolve. Next move, allies. I needed dirt that stuck. Witnesses who wouldn't fold. Enter Sarah Klein, my old college roommate and now a junior accountant at a rival firm. We met for drinks at a dive in Capitol Hill. The kind with sticky floors and craft IPAs that loosen tongues. Sarah was all tattoos and no bullshit. The een to my former yang. Allie, you look haunted.
Spill.
Over nachos and negligence. I unloaded, not the rebirth. That stayed buried, but the suspicions. Jake and my mom. Embezzlement. I think they're setting me up. Her eyes narrowed. The forensic accountant in her lighting up. Show me the numbers. I slid my phone across. Anonymized files glowing. She scrolled, whistling low. Holy shit. This is textbook laundering. I know a guy at the FBI white-collar division. Off the record. But if you want. I hesitated. Controversial decision number 1. Go nuclear early? Expose them now? Risk them lawyering up and countering with gaslighting? Or play longer? Savor the unravel? Not yet, I said. Build the case. Make it airtight. Sarah nodded, pocketing her phone. You're different.
Allie.
Stronger. Whoever broke you fixed you wrong. If only she knew. The cabin weekend arrived. A pressure cooker and flannel. Jake's family pile was all exposed beams and stone fireplaces. The woods whispering conspiracies. We hiked. We canoed. We fucked like rabbits to paper over the cracks. But at night, by the fire, I pushed. Jake, be honest. Is there someone else? He choked on his bourbon. Allie.
No.
You're my everything. But his phone buzzed, a text from me, and he silenced it too quick. I smiled. Sweet as pie. Good. Because I'd hate to find out otherwise. The seed rooted. Back in the city, the whispers crescendoed. Jake's best man, Tyler, pulled me aside at a pre-wedding brunch. Dude's acting weird. And your mom? She's calling him nonstop. What's the deal? Family drama, I evaded, but planted more, a confidential chat about concerns over the agency's books. Tyler, ambitious and overlooked.
Bit.
By week's end, he'd emailed Jake a friendly audit suggestion. Panic set in. Jake snapped at me over dinner, accusing me of sabotage. If you're trying to tank us before the merger, just say it. I feigned shock, tears welling. How can you even think that? He apologized profusely, on his knees with roses the next day. But the fracture widened. Mom escalated.
2.
She booked us for a mother-daughter spa day, all mud masks and mimosas at a retreat in Woodinville. In the steam room, towels clinging like second skins, she cornered me. Allison, this paranoia, it's unbecoming. Jake adores you. Let me handle the stress. Handle like Dad's money? I shot back, voice low. Or like my future? Her eyes iced over. Careful, darling. Blood's thicker than suspicion. Threat delivered. She exited, leaving me in the haze. That night, I met Sarah at a neutral cafe. Your guy's interested, she said, sliding a folder. Preliminary review. Enough for a warrant if we push. Photos. Mom and Jake at a motel off I-5. Timestamps damning. Audio snippet. Her voice. Tinny but clear. After the wedding.
She's out.
The policy's double indemnity. Chills raced my spine.
Proof.
But deploying it meant crossing lines, blackmail, leaks to the press? Controversial. Yes. But justice wasn't polite.
I chose escalation.
Anonymous packet to the agency's board, select docs. Just enough to spook. Jake called in hysterics. Someone's leaking shit. If it's you. Me? I gasped. Innocence incarnate. I'd never. The board meeting was a bloodbath. Jake emerged pale. Mom's calls flooding my voicemail with pleas to fix this. I deleted them, humming as I planned the next hit.
Wedding rehearsal slow met.
The church and queen and a gothic backdrop to my vendetta. Rehearsal dinner at Canlis. Skyline views mocking their crumbling empire. I arrived late, in a red dress that screamed warning. Jake's hand trembled on my waist. Mom's smile was a rictus. During toasts, Tyler stood. To Allison and Jake, may your secrets stay buried. The table tittered uneasily. Jake's laugh was forced. Mom's eyes bored into mine across the linen. After, in the limo home, Jake exploded. What the fuck is going on? Tyler knows something. I turned, calm as a loaded gun. Maybe because you two aren't as slick as you think. His slap was lightning, palm stinging my cheek. Shock freezing us both. You bitch, he hissed. Stay out of it. I touched my face. Tasting copper. Or what? Poison my champagne again. The car swerved, he gaped. What did you say? In for a penny. I know.
Jake. Napa. The trust.
The plan. All of it. Silence. Then his whisper. How? Doesn't matter. Walk away now. Or I burn it all down. Controversial? Hell yes. Ultimatum over groveling. But power surged through me. Electric. He didn't walk. Instead, he begged. Promised change. Blamed her. It's Elena.
She's obsessed.
I love you, Allie.
Lies.
But I let him dangle. The hook deep. Mom's countermove came swift, a heart-to-heart at dawn. Her in my doorway with coffee and crocodile tears. He's poisoning you against me. Don't let him. Hysterical. I slammed the door, barricading with truth. Save it. I have the proof. Her gasp was genuine. What proof? The motel tapes. The emails. Dad's autopsy reopened. Shows overdose on his statins. You killed him too. She crumpled, but rallied. You don't understand. He was leaving me. The money. It was survival. Survival? For your affair fund. I laughed. Bitter. Get out. She left. But not broken. Texts flew. Jake pleading. Mom threatening exposure of my instability to cancel the wedding. I didn't flinch. The altar awaited. File 3. The Reckoning. Words. 1001. The week before the wedding was a gauntlet of gaslighting and guerrilla warfare. Jake moved into a hotel. Citing space, but his texts were nonstop. Love bombs mixed with accusations. You're destroying us. Call off the leaks. Mom went radio silent. Her social media a blitz of cryptic quotes about toxic family and false idols, the passive-aggressive armor of the elite housewife. Friends circled warily, sensing the rift but chalking it to bridal jitters. I played along, posting throwback pics of Jake and me at Coachella. Captions dripping saccharin, counting down to forever ring soulmates. But forever was the punchline. Nights. I pored over the dossier with Sarah. Our war room a corner booth at Elliott Bay Book Company. Surrounded by dog-eared thrillers that paled next to my plot. Feds are biting, she reported, nursing a flat white. But they need a whistleblower.
You. Me.
The girl who'd once filed taxes with glitter stickers on the forms.
Now.
Whistleblower. Controversial as hell, trading family for felons, love for indictments. But the alternative? Swallow the poison again. Let their illusions stand.
No.
This Allison fought dirty. I drafted the affidavit in a caffeine haze. Words flowing like venom, timelines, account numbers, motives. Dad's death was an accident. He'd confronted her about the skimming. Upped his meds to calm his nerves, only for her to double the dose.
Sloppy.
But covered as grief. My murder? Cleaner. Staged as suicide post-honeymoon. The prenup ensuring she got the agency remnants. Jake's cut. Equity. Her bed. My grave. Signing it felt like shedding skin raw. Exhilarating. Sarah couriered it to her contact, and we toasted with mocktails. To rebirths, she said, clinking glasses. I nearly choked. Close enough. The bridal shower was a farce at Mom's club, pastel balloons and monogrammed robes clashing with the undercurrent of dread. Mom hosted, her smile a veneer over gritted teeth, gifting me lingerie for the honeymoon with a wink that curdled the mimosa in my gut. Jake sent regrets, work crisis, but his absence screamed volumes. As we played Pin the Bouquet, I cornered Cousin Mia, the family archivist with a nose for drama.
Mia?
Off record. Ever wonder about Dad's will? She blinked. Prosecco flushed.
A bit.
Elena handled it all so fast. I slipped her a USB, sanitized docs. Look later. Quietly. Seed sown. By evening, Mia's text, WTF? This is insane. I'm calling my lawyer friend. Avalanche building. Jake cornered me post-shower, ambushing at my apartment with pizza and puppy eyes. We need to talk. Really talk. He looked wrecked, stubble shadowing his jaw. Eyes bloodshot. Part of me, the old me,
ached.
But the new me saw the schemer. We sat on the floor, boxes cooling between us. Allie, I fucked up.
Elena.
It started as nothing. Stress relief. But I swear, the money stuff? Her idea. I was weak. Lies layered like lasagna. But I let him peel. Weak, I echoed, picking at crust. You planned my death, he recoiled.
No.
It was hypothetical. Insurance to cover the losses if the agency tanked. She twisted it. Twisted like the antifreeze in my flute. The words hung, his face draining to ash. How do you? Oh God. You weren't supposed to. He buried his head,
sobs racking.
Controversial choice. Comfort the viper? I slid closer, stroking his hair like a confessor. Tell me everything. Confess. And maybe. Mercy. He spilled, nights at the Four Seasons. Her seductions laced with ledger talk. His complicity born of ambition and bourbon. I love you, Allie. Always did. End it with her. Marry me for real. Temptation flickered. Expose her. Keep him? Pathetic. Too late, I whispered, pulling away. The feds have it all. His roar shook the walls. You traitorous cunt. He lunged, hands around my throat, echo of my death grip. I need him hard. Stars exploding as he crumpled.
Door slem.
Locks bolted. 911 on speed dial. But no cops, instead. A restraining order filed by Dawn, courtesy of Sarah's pro bono shark. Mom's retaliation was surgical, a leaked diary to the family group chat. Entries from me ranting about delusions and paranoia. Gaslight gold. Painting me the unhinged bride. Calls flooded. Concern from aunts. Fury from Jake's mom. I countered with poise, a single email, misunderstandings. Wedding on. Love you all. But privately, I seethed. Her forgery was sloppy. Watermarks screamed Photoshop. I forwarded to the detective Sarah looped in, adding attempted character assassination to the rap sheet. The bachelor/bachelorette fused bash was neutral ground, a yacht cruise on Lake Union. Fireworks scripted like my finale. Jake skipped, Mom attended, arm in arm with her date, a silver fox from the club who reeked of rebound. We danced under string lights. The city a glittering jury, and I toasted her across the deck, to mothers who shape us, for better or worse. Her glass trembled. To daughters who forgive. The lie landed flat. Alone later, wind whipping my hair, I called the detective. Green light. Raid them tomorrow.
Click.
No turning back. Dawn brought helicopters, metaphorical, but the Fed's knock echoed like thunder. I watched from a coffee shop across from Mom's, binoculars borrowed from Sarah's birdwatching phase. Suits swarmed the McMansion, Elena in robe and rollers, shrieking as they cuffed her. Jake's hotel room next, he emerged in boxers.
Dazed.
Headlines would scream. Local power couple busted for embezzlement. Murder plot. My phone erupted. Congrats from Sarah. Panic from stragglers. But the real call? From Mom's lawyer. Voice oily. MS. Harper. Your mother insists this is a mistake. She's offering a deal. Drop charges. She confesses solo.
Tempting.
Controversial. Mercy for the monster who birthed me? I laughed into the void. Tell her no. And add forgery to the list. The arrest made waves. Agency frozen. Board ousting Jake via emergency Zoom. Friends distanced, but Sarah and Mia closed ranks. My makeshift army. Yet isolation gnawed, reborn, but alone in the ashes. Wedding Eve. I walked the beach at Golden Gardens. Waves gnashing like teeth. Flashbacks assaulted. My death gasp. Her whisper. Tears mixed with salt spray. Was revenge hollow? No, the twist was coming. They'd plea, but I'd testify. Carve their illusions to ribbons.
Rehearsal morning.
The church loomed, ivy-clad stone. Bells tolling like accusations. Guests milled, oblivious to the storm. Jake's family glared, mine averted eyes. Mom, out on bail. A ghost in gray silk, seated front row like a dare. I walked the aisle in ivory rehearsal gown, veil trailing judgment. Father O'Malley droned vows. Jake stood proxy, hollow-eyed. At the altar, our eyes locked, his pleading, mine steel. Repeat after me, the priest intoned. Jake faltered on forsaking all others. My turn. Heart pounding, I faced the crucifix, then them. Allison Harper. Take you. Jacob Reynolds. In sickness and health, till death do us part. But death already did, when you fucked my mother and plotted my end. Gasps rippled. Jake lunged, ushers restrained. Mom bolted, but bail revoked mid-stride, feds in pews, badges flashing. Chaos erupted, screams, Flashes from invited press, Sarah's leak. I stood serene, veil discarded, as cuffs clicked anew. The church dissolved into pandemonium, a tableau of shattered vows and stunned faces, the stained glass saints bearing witness to the unmasking. Jake thrashed against the usher's grip, his tux rental rumpled, face contorted in a howl that echoed off the vaulted ceilings. "You crazy bitch. This is your fault." Mom clawed at the detective's arm, her silk tearing like her facade, screeching, "Lies. She's deranged, always has been." But the feds were pros, zip-tying wrists with efficient snaps, Miranda rights recited amid the sobs of aunts and the frantic dialing of uncles. I stood at the altar, bouquet crushed in my fist, petals scattering like confetti from a funeral. Father O'Malley crossed himself, murmuring prayers, while the organist fumbled to a halt, chords dying in dissonance. Tyler, ever the opportunist, whipped out his phone, live-streaming the takedown to his Insta story, #wedding from hell trending before the ambulances arrived for the fainted flower girl. No wedding, of course. Cancellation emails pinged en masse as I slipped out a side door. The Seattle drizzle a baptism on my tear-streaked face. Sarah waited in her Prius, engine idling like a getaway car. "You did it," she said, handing me a thermos of Irish coffee spiked just how I needed. "The whole world's watching." Indeed. By noon, my altar speech was viral, remixed with dramatic violin swells on TikTok, dissected on Reddit's r/true crime. Hero or villain? Threads exploded. Cable news looped blurry footage. Pundits debating filial piety versus felony. I hold up at Sarah's Queen and walk up, binging true crime docs for irony, ignoring the voicemails from estranged kin. "How could you?" from Jake's mom. "Betrayal" from a cousin. But the high faded fast. Interrogations called me in, depositions under fluorescent buzz. Lawyers circling like vultures. Mom's attorney, a slick Harvard shark named Hargrove, tried the sympathy play. "Elena raised you alone after your father's tragic passing." This is grief talking. I stared him down, voice steady. "Grief? Try greed." "And murder." Jake's defense was denial. Coerced by her. I was a victim too, but the tapes betrayed him. His moans mingling with ledgers over motel static. Plea deals surfaced. Mom for 20 to life on embezzlement and manslaughter. Dad's overdose pinned. Jake for 10 on conspiracy. Testify against them. Get immunity on the anonymous leaks that skirted vigilante lines. Controversial fork. Take the deal. Let justice limp along, or push for trial. Drag the filth into daylight. Risk perjury traps? I chose the courtroom circus. Full exposure, I told the DA. A no-nonsense woman named Reyes with a scar like a badge of battles won. They don't slither away. Trial prep was trench warfare. Months blurred, Seattle's endless gray mirroring my mood. Sarah became family. Mia my publicist pro bono. Fielding interview requests from Dateline. I quit the agency, dissolved anyway. Assets seized. Pivoted to freelance consulting. My byline on a Medium post about betrayal in the boardroom, netting 6 figures in speaking gigs. Empowerment. They called it. Survival. I knew. But nights clawed deep. Dreams of the poison burn. Mom's laugh. Jake's slap. Therapy helped Dr. Lena. A black woman with a laugh like thunder and zero patience for bullshit. Revenge isn't closure.
Allison.
It's a mirror. What do you see?
Me.
Finally. Unapologetic. Reborn not just in body, but bone. The trial opened in federal court. Downtown monolith of marble and metal. Protesters outside waving signs. Justice for Allison, versus Family First. Mom took the stand first. Transformed, dowdy bun. Glasses magnifying crocodile tears. I loved my daughter. Everything for her future. Gasps when I cross-examined victim's right. My voice echoing. Loved me enough to kill Dad? To plot my accident? Her flinch was Oscar-worthy.
He was depressed.
The meds. A mistake. But the tox report crushed it. Double dose. Deliberate. Jake followed. Crumbling under Rhea's grill. Hypothetical? You emailed coordinates for my honeymoon hike. The cliff drop. His whisper. She made me. Twist dropped mid-trial. Forensics on Dad's phone. Recovered from evidence lockup. Text to me. Undelivered. Your mother's stealing everything. Meet me, tell Allison. Timestamp. Hours before death. Mom had intercepted. Silenced him. Jury wept. I didn't. Vindication tasted flat. Closing arguments. Reyes painted them as serpents in Eden. Defense. Star-crossed fools. Verdict. Guilty across the board. Mom. 25 years. No parole. Jake. 15. With a shank's worth of enemies inside. Sentencing. Mom's wail as the gavel fell. Jake's glare promising hell if bars bent.
Outside.
Media swarm. I push through. Mic in face. Not revenge. Justice. For every blind daughter. Flashbulbs blinded. I vanished into Sarah's car. Exhaling like surfacing from depths. Aftermath, a new life. I sold the apartment. Bought a cottage in Fremont. Troll under the bridge vibes. Garden bursting wild. Dated casually. A barista with tattoos. A prof with kind eyes, but no rush. The book deal landed. Veiled Betrayals. Ghostwritten but soul mine. Bestseller with Netflix option. Mom wrote, from prison. Pleas for forgiveness. I burned them. Ashes to the sound. Twists echo. A letter from Jake. Contrite. Claiming reform. You saved me from her. Bullshit. But it stirred pity's ghost. I visited once. Through plexi. His orange jumpsuit a karmic fit. Why? He rasped. Because love shouldn't kill. I walked out.
Free.
Years on. At 35. I stood at another altar, not bride, but officiant for Sarah's wedding. Her hand in a biochemist's. Vows exchanged. Rings slipped. Cheers erupted. In the crowd. Mia raised a glass, Dr. Lena nodded approval. No perfect illusion here, just messy. Real joy. Reborn. I torched the old world. What rose?
Me.
Unbreakable. And that, in the end, was the sweetest revenge.